Okay, here we go. So, good morning, everybody, or anybody. So, because there are no young people here, I had a little bit of trouble getting my live videos started, but this is the real start. So Ruth is going to model for me. I am going to be painting with my Anders Zorn palette. I'll talk to you a little bit about that as I work. The plan is to, I think it's only fair to expect people to watch for about half an hour, so I'll see what I can do in 30 minutes. An oil painted study, wet in wet, live in front of you. But then towards the end, about 30 minutes, we have a little announcement, a new arrival we'd like to tell you about. So that might be it's sometimes worth pausing a bit of painting just to find some time to reflect on what's been done. So, here we go. I hope the lighting is good for you all to see both what I'm doing and what Ruth is doing. And I will now talk to you a little bit about my materials and my approach. So I'm painting, it's going to be a little study. I'm painting on some canvas board, which is kind of A4 size. It's a white canvas board, and what I do first is I cover it with a layer of, it's a grey paint really. I've mentioned the Anders Zorn palette, so I am working with 4 colours. Let's get this covered now. So this is the first thing that you're seeing that I'm doing. I'm not going to paint on a white surface. I'm going to paint on a wet, off-white, grey surface. The Anders Zorn palette is 4 colours. It's Mars black, or is it ivory black?
Should you tell people what Zorn is?
It's ivory black, titanium white, cadmium red, and yellow ochre. And it's an extraordinary thing because out of those 4 colours you can get an awful lot of contrast, bright colour, subdued colour, light and dark, warm and cool. And it's a particularly good palette for working with portraits, probably mainly of Caucasian subjects, although he did quite a lot of work in Spain and painted, darker skinned portraits as well. Whether it would work with an African complexion, I'm not so sure. So Anders Zorn was a Swedish painter at the end of the 19th century. He was a contemporary of John Singer Sargent. And was a bit of a competitor, really. So, Ruth, if you could do what you were doing there, is that okay? Mm-hmm. Lovely, right. So, I've wet the surface. I've now got a brown mixture that I've put together, and I'm going to draw a bit with that. So, I think, let's see. So I'm painting wet into wet, which is very interesting to do with oil paint because, of course, with oil paint things smudge. And in that way, what you paint becomes softened. So whilst it's kind of horrifying for some people, especially the beginners, they're really worried about the paint mixing and is it muddying. Actually, it can be a lovely thing to do to help you have a painting evolve gradually. So you could imagine a process where you draw something out very precisely and then just fill it in. And that's not a terribly interesting process in which you're going to make discoveries about what paint can do. So working wet in wet, as I'm describing and demonstrating, the results, the effects become very softened, and it gives you the scope to change things, to discover something that you might not have been planning, and also just perhaps to produce a slightly more subtle, mysterious painting. And it's mysterious because things aren't definite. It's also mysterious because there's been a bit of a process for the artist. The artist may well have been surprised by what has happened. So the first stage then, I was barely picking up much paint there because I'm trying to make my mind up about what exactly to do with my subject, how big to paint her, where to put the figure on the page and so on. So again, the fact that I can change things with this soft wet-in-wet process is rather nice because it means there's a fluency, a fluency to what's going on. So I think I'm going to keep the head that size, and it's a bit bigger than it was at first. So I'm just going to make a few adjustments to the rest of the figure. So normally, just thinking about the paintings, there's a number of paintings of Ruth in this exhibition, and most of them have been produced with a different kind of process. I have done some working directly from life, but many of them start as a photo session, basically, collecting some photographic reference. From those photographs, I would then produce drawings, sometimes pastel drawings, sometimes charcoal drawings, and then use those drawings themselves as the reference for painting. So this is a little bit different because I'm just launching straight into the painting, and I haven't given that much time to choosing, the best composition, but I think it's going to be fine as long as Ruth's arm doesn't fall off. So let's say that's enough for that stage, and now I'm going to block in some colours. So I think I'll start with Ruth's grey dress. So again, as I've said, there is this combination of colours. We've got ivory black, yellow ochre, cadmium red, and titanium white. So that's a grey that I've started with. The feature, one of the features of Anders Zorn's palette is limited palette. Obviously, there's only 4 colours, so it's not lots of different colours. That means that it's often fairly instantly harmonious. But because there's a cadmium red, which is a strong colour, and yellow ochre, which is a fairly muted colour, it tends to be a palette that's biased towards red. And so Anders Zorn, if you look him up, you'll see a lot of his paintings, his subjects will often have a bit of red in their clothing, a headband or whatever. He did a self-portrait in a big red coat. So I've asked Ruth to put this red scarf on, and she's wearing a grey dress, but it's got these red patterns in it. So I've put down the grey, but I'm not getting in the red yet. I'll wait and see. So now I've made a bit of a shadow colour for skin. I haven't made enough of it. But what I'm going to do next now is block in some of the shadow areas in the face and the figure. But I've not made enough, so I better make a bit more. Ruth, if you need to put that arm down now and then, do that.
Yeah, it's okay.
So I prepared a bit of paint before we started, but of course one never prepares enough. I'll have to just keep coming back to that. And I'm continuing in the way that I've described, letting the wet surface mix some of my colours. So if you like, one thing that when people start working with oil paint, they are understandably anxious about the colours mixing too much and muddying. But if you start with a wet surface, then actually that's all part of the process, and you can become gradually more experienced in knowing how to manage that. So the paint mixes, and if you like, muddies, but if you've got plenty of fresh colour prepared, then you can restate things that might have been lost. And in that way you get the best of both worlds. You get bright colour, but also subdued, more subtle variations. And I'm jumping around a bit. I don't know if this is really the right way I should be doing this, but I've prepared some lighter colour, and I'd just quite like to see that. So I'm looking with my eyes half closed and seeing where some of the light is on Ruth's forehead, on her eye and cheek. Just putting a little bit of light on. I say I'm jumping ahead because really, if I wasn't panicking about everybody watching, I might have taken my time to get to this point. But I'd just quite like to see what the effect of some of that is. And that's also colours I mixed at the start. So that's getting a little bit of light on the face there, and I'll get some onto that hand. So I think if this is a demonstration, if this were a sort of teaching demonstration, I think I'd be advising people not to do what I just did yet. It's a little bit early to be putting that light on. Anyway, I've done it. So what I'll do next, I'm going to prepare a bit of colour for her hair, and I think I'll get some of the red on as well. And then there's probably got to be a little bit of break in the action while I prepare a lot more paint. Working wet in wet, as I've been describing, the paint mixes, and if I want to have some brighter colours or some stronger contrast, then I come back with fresh paint, and in order to do that there's got to be a good stock ready and waiting on my palette. So I'll get a little bit of paint mixed. I don't know which is worse, watching paint dry or watching paint be mixed, but that's what I'm up to next. So let's get some of that. I think it would be helpful in this particular composition to get some of that red to work. I'll just prepare some brighter reds. But as I've been trying to describe, what's great about this particular approach, this process, is that you can put things down and assess them, and if you change your mind about them, then that's all part of the process, basically. There is scope to redo things, so maybe we should get some of this red in the dress as well. I got a wonderful book from my brother-in-law for my 60th birthday on Anders Zorn. So I've just been reading all about him and some great descriptions of his painting technique. Some of the things I've said already, but also this idea that actually he painted very quickly. And there's a description of him holding his brush in front of the canvas, rehearsing the brushstroke in the air, and then executing the brushstroke. So I like the sound of that. It'd be a bit pretentious if I did that. I think I was trying to channel him. But that's nice to have a bit of brighter colour there. So now I want to get some paint into Ruth's hair. So let's see, we'll start with something dark here now. And then I think I'll come to the features, and I'm just going to put in a little bit of definition. I'm running out of space up there because of my easel. But that's okay. So another thing to say, maybe, I don't know if you can see, but I'm painting with a brush, I think it's a size 12 hoghair brush. So I've done everything with that relatively large brush. And that's what, this technique is all about. Starting very generally, very loosely. So even though I'm now going to put in some features, by doing it with just the edge of my big brush, I can put in something which is essentially very simplified, and which I can eventually make more definite. I hope we've got enough room there. Is this head getting bigger? Yeah, that's okay. Maybe some of that red is in the wrong place. So I've got to do a little bit of scaling here. I've got to sort out my proportion. But again, as I do keep saying, this is all about a process of gradually refining the painting on the surface of the canvas, changing it. Now, I think what I need to do is perhaps work a bit with the background again. So I just want to tidy up around this head, because there's bits over here which were the original sort of drawing. I'll do that first. That will help me see where I am. And then I think I probably need to get a bit more warmth into this, into the skin, even into a bit more colour into the dress. So lots of things to do, but what I was going to do first was the background. There we go. So plenty of paint. And I might also start to vary that background a little bit. For the background, I've put together some yellow ochre, some of the black, and some titanium white. And I think I would like some of the background to be a bit darker now. I think that would help to make it recede a little bit. And I'm going to get a bit more colour into the hair. And then go back to the face and the skin. They could also take a bit more warmth. So start with the background. You still okay, Ruth? Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'm going to get the line of the neck a bit more. Shape the hair. I think it's quite good to have a bit of variation behind the head. So this is, negative shape, cutting in from the outside. That's always helpful. And actually I thought it would be nice to have something darker. But I am discovering as I do it, I don't like the dark as much. So I think what I will quickly do is remix that and make it much, much lighter. And what generally happens, let's hope it happens for me, with this Zorn palette, because it's these four colours, there's usually a wonderfully harmonious quality to it. And adjusting colours, as I'm about to do, making them lighter and darker, usually they maintain their harmony. They're related, very closely related, as a small family of colours. So that can be really helpful. So yeah, I wanted to get something much lighter here, because I think that's much more helpful. It is actually really helpful, but I can see from my camera that it's not necessarily making a difference to what you're seeing. Anyway, that's a good thing to make that sort of a change. Okay, good. Now, let's be decisive, because I think I can only really do 2 or 3 more things before I've got to pause. So let's get some colour into the hair, and I think I'd like to darken the dress as well. So I'm going to push the dress to a darker grey-green, and then I want to get some light into the hair. I suppose it would have been helpful for this demonstration, and would certainly be the way that I would tend to work normally, to just have had a bit more colour ready. So you don't have to wait. But then from the point of view of painting, it is just good to not be painting all the time. As I mix colour, I can keep looking at my painting and be a little bit surprised by what's there, see it fresh, and therefore hopefully be making wise decisions about what to do next. So get a little bit of colour ready for the hair. Let's try that. It needs to be more yellow. Okay, so darken dress and colour and light into the hair. Let's see what that does. And just again, sort of for those of you who want to know about painting and try this, now the surface is so wet and there's a lot of paint, when I pick up some paint on the tip of my brush, I've got to hold my brush almost parallel to the painting so that I can float that colour on. So if I want something not to mix too much, then I have to sit it on the surface. And each time I do that, this paint that's on the tip of the brush is actually less and less pure. It's mixed with what's underneath. So either I have to, I can use that colour somewhere else if I think there's a role for it, or else I've got to clean my brush and pick up some new paint. So that's what I'm doing there. I can't keep going back to it, otherwise I'll lose its definition. So that was in the dress, and now something to the hair. So looking with my eyes half closed, I look for some of the dark shapes in Ruth's hair. And with that colour that I've made for the hair, I'm also going to strengthen the features a bit. shape my brush, because if I'm doing an eyebrow or an eye, I'm just after a fairly thin mark. But because it's the big brush, it's going to keep it fairly simplified. And if I were to come back to this painting, I would develop these thinner, simplified shapes a little bit further. So the light in the hair, and then perhaps just a bit more light on the face. So are you still okay, Ruth? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to give myself just 5 more minutes and then pause. So I'm going to put a little bit of light in the hair. I think that could get much lighter, couldn't it? Just deciding there's quite a similarity between the colour in Ruth's hair, the light in Ruth's hair, and the wall behind. So I'm getting a lot more colour into her hair. So we've got a grey wall, but we've got a bit more colour in Ruth's grey hair to make that distinction. And then lastly, I'm going to put some light back on the face. Tidy that up a bit. I've nearly got the proportion going now with... I'd lost the chin a little bit in the scarf. I think I can get that back now. Okay, so a bit of colour for the hair. And a bit of light on the face. That's my plan. That's up there, you can't see that bit. It's all out of your view. What shall I say? Do light on the face. And get more colour in the face. Yeah, good. Let's do that. And then, as I say, I'll pause the painting and we'll have a little announcement. And then I'll come back and look at it and just decide, are there 1 or 2 more things that I can do for you, just as a conclusion. That one. Just need a bit more of the yellow. And also if I do come back to do any more, it's often what you do at the end actually. If you've left the painting for a little bit and there are things that you might want to sort of top up, as I've described, brighten, lighten, make stronger. And that's the thing to do at the end, to restate lights and brighter colours or darker accents. And I was saying at the beginning all about working this wet in wet way and how the contrast is softened. So this last stage, can often be one of getting back some of the emphasis that you might have been looking for. Okay, so what have we got here? Got a bit more colour. I'm going to get that into the eyelids, to the tip of the nose. And that's bringing out a lot more modelling in this face. I didn't get around to making anything particularly for the mouth, its own distinct palette. But that would be a nice thing to do. And some other areas need a bit more colour. And into the fingers as well. And then I'd also made some lighter colour for the face, and I wanted to refresh that. Good, yeah. So lastly then, as I say, I'm going to put some light in the face. And then have a little pause. And then Ruth will be able to put her arm down. So we get back that light on the front of the nose and on the tip of the nose. And a bit on the cheek and the eyelid. And then I'd sort of lost the chin a little bit down here in the red scarf. Get a bit of that back and get some fingers back. Okay. Just a little bit under the chin there, so sort out the chin and the neck. We won't have a competition between them. Not the chin and the neck, I mean the chin and the scarf. Okay, right, so I'm just aware of the time. That's been about half an hour. Thank you, Ruth. So what we're going to do, I just, as I said, wanted to tell you about a new arrival. A baby. This, I don't know how well you're going to see this because I'm on the wrong side of the, I'll take it up to the camera in a second. This is baby Inez. So our dear friend Nancy, who is Inez's godmother, has sent this from New York to be part of my retrospective Callan at 60 exhibition. It's a beautiful baby, a pastel drawing from 2002. Inez was born 2001, so I must have done this a while after. It's pastel, ink and wash, and it is in the collection of Nancy Berlinger in New York. So she's really kindly lent it to us for the exhibition. So that's proudly going to go up on the wall with everything else, and I'll put that on the website as well. So that was our announcement. There we go. We love babies. Some of them come early, some come late. Right, so we've got to make a bit of a decision here.
I'll go back, I'll try and do it again.
Yes, well, put your hand down a minute, because I think just if I make a decision here, I think I'm going to do 10 more minutes. 10 more minutes, okay? So, Ruth, don't pose yet. Give me a couple of minutes just to decide what to do, and I'll think out loud. So I'm going to do a bit more dark in the dress. Then I need to do a little bit to the face, and it probably would be quite good to get some more colour into the mouth, and I feel it would help. I still need to make this background a lot lighter. So there we go. That's thinking aloud. More dark in the dress, lighter background, and then just a little bit of refining of the face. So I'll probably use some smaller brushes to... Oh, I said colour in the mouth, didn't I? Yes. So I think that would be good. I've got to be sort of decisive because every colour that I suggest involves a bit of mixing time, and I've got to take that account. You know, if I'm going to do 10 minutes, I can only mix so many colours. So, but this is what's so great actually about demonstrating, is that you have to be very decisive, and it can mean that you don't do unnecessary things. You have to just try and work out what's essential. No, hang on a second, Ruth. So I'm just going to make a bit more for the dress and for the mouth. And I was really going to lighten the background. There's a lot of paint on the background, so I might even have to take some off. But we'll see. So let's do dress and background, and then mix some colour for the mouth. So I'll actually paint the dress in the background, and then mix for the mouth. Okay, so yes, Ruth, you could do that now, please. Thank you. I can get a little bit of dark into the dress, which I think is helpful for the painting, and maybe also a way of defining some of those parts of the hand. Yes, I think that's helpful actually, just to... It is a grey dress, but as I start to get in some more of the contrasting green, that gives it a lot more volume, and it helps the other colours, so it contrasts with the other colours. So that's good for the dress, and then let's just clean my brush. And I had this idea of getting a lot more light into the background. Yeah, good. That's better as well. I don't know how well that comes out on the camera again, because that part of my board is quite shiny because of all this wet paint. So you may not see a massive difference, but it's actually lifting the colour. I'll put the camera on the painting slightly differently once I've come to a finish, but you might see that. Yeah, that's better to get that up there. Right, so then I was going to mix something for the mouth and do a quick finish of the head, the face. So I've got the red there on the scarf. Something a bit smaller. So let's see, this is all for one and one for all. A line for a top lip.
little bit of that on the lower lip. I could get some of that into the nose as well. And then I've got a colour for the lower lip, a little bit more light. Let's try that. And what else do we have to do? That was it, really, I think, apart from freshening up. Maybe this hand could just be tidied up a little bit with just a bit of dark. Maybe just get some drawing back in there. And maybe some of that drawing could also go into the jaw. Here. And that neck and scarf is not quite right. So let's deal with that. Lastly, that's maybe mainly the scarf could sort that out. Could we have a bit more scarf there? Just flurry of red. Be nice. And I'm just going to shape that eye so I can see something slightly different I could do there. This eye here. Bit of refining. It's looking a bit soulful. But it's been a challenging session. And then I just get a little bit of light on there. And a bit of light on the chin. I'd just like to soften that line. Okay, so I'm going to stop there and I'm going to just finish. I'll bring the camera, the painting right up to the camera so you can sort of see it at the very end. But thank you, Ruth. Thank you everybody who's been watching. And I hope you can come to the exhibition. It's here until tomorrow, Thursday at 6 o'clock. I'll have this painting here, so if you're just dying to see it in the flesh, you can rush in. You can also see Baby Inez, just arrived, and all the other paintings in the show. So thank you for those of you who watched, and thank you, Ruth. And let me just bring my camera right up to the painting, so you can just have a last... We've got to get the light right, though. It's quite tricky to get lights working. There we go. Something like that. There's great lighting in this gallery, but it's not brilliant for filming with. Okay, so thank you very much. I'll put this onto my website now, so if you wanted to watch that and follow the progress of this painting, you'll see it on the website. All right, thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you for waving. Lots of people are waving. Thank you.